Is Dricus du Plessis being overlooked? Seems to be so. So most recently, he has been linked up with Robert Whitaker, and there's been a lot of banter between Dricus and Israel Adesanya. Basically, Dricus coming out and talking a bunch of shit, saying he's going to be the first real African champion of the UFC. He's even most recently come out as a few days ago saying that he quote unquote manhandled Israel years back in sparring. And even Izzy himself kind of said back in the day, he's like, yeah, I tuned his ass up in striking, but of course he got the better of me in wrestling. Like at the time, I don't even think Izzy had started MMA yet. So we got all this happening, but yet for whatever reason, he has been now booked against Robert Whitaker for a title eliminator matchup in a matchup where we've already seen Whitaker and Izzy twice, right? And no one's really clamoring for a third fight. And we finally have some fresh blood within the division, and the UFC decides to put him up against like the next guy who has completely cleaned out the division, who is not Israel Adesanya. So I mean, and as history would tell us, Whitaker's going to win this fight. Whitaker's going to make Dricus look bad, and that's how everybody else is kind of saying the same thing. And I really feel like this is a big mistake by the UFC by just not making giving Dricus the title shot, mainly because like every other guy who's ahead of him for the most part in the middleweight division, they've already fought Izzy once, not if not twice. Like nobody's gonna watch the Whitaker and Dricus fight. I mean, I could be wrong on that. Maybe I'm getting a little hasty here, but does anybody really fucking care? Like, let's be real here. Does anybody really care to see Whitaker versus Izzy 3? And that's no disrespect to Whitaker, no disrespect to Izzy, but we've seen it twice already. We probably know what's going to happen the third time. And then if Whitaker comes out with the dub in the third fight anyways, what are we going to see? A fourth fight like what we saw with Izzy and Pereira? The fact that they're not like allowing the fresh blood to go out there and just give it his go against Izzy, and he has to go out there and fight a guy who's probably going to fucking tune him up anyways. I think Dricus versus Izzy sells twice as many tickets as Whitaker and Izzy 3 does. I really do. I think that Dricus has come out and talked enough shit and enough nonsense to deliver fresh blood, fresh feels, fresh vibes to the middleweight division. And say what you want, he has a lot of haters. Everybody is overlooking Dricus here. And yes, Robert, as history would tell us, is probably going to come out with the victory here against Dricus. But you seriously can't sit there and say that Dricus can't pull out a victory, though. Robert's been beat before, especially at welterweight. Izzy's knocked him out, but Izzy's Izzy. But we've seen Robert get beat at welterweight by Court McGee, got knocked out by Wonderboy Thompson back in the day. So to sit here and say that Whitaker's completely untouchable is absolute nonsense, but the guy that he's become, like his only boogeyman is Izzy, and that last fight was pretty close in itself. But my whole thing is here, my whole vibe here is like, why is Dricus being so underappreciated by everybody, including the UFC? It just doesn't make really any sense to me, and I personally would prefer to see Dricus and Izzy before we even saw Whitaker versus Dricus or Whitaker and Izzy 3. I think the UFC really dropped the ball on this one. I think is just kind of where I'm trying to get at here with this. And that's kind of really all I have to say on that. I mean, I really don't have a winner of Dricus and Whitaker. I mean, I think Whitaker dusted him, I guess. But then Dricus has come out there. I mean, he's on a 7-fight win streak. He's knocked out Marcus Perez, Trevin Giles, and most recently Derek Brunson. He submitted Darren Till. And then he had the fight where he really had to dig deep against Brad Tavares, right? Where Brad tuned him up throughout the first round, damaged him, almost finished the fight. In rounds 2 and 3, Dricus really bit down on his mouthpiece, had to just kind of survive. And like you just saw like his technique, and he was just kind of like on autopilot like the rest of that fight. Like it was very interesting to see him go out there and pull off the victory in rounds 2 and 3 there. In a fight against Darren Till, we saw him against a Darren Till who just wasn't healthy. But for him to he's just got this gas tank. He breaks dudes, and he did it to Derek Brunson as well. He really wore on Derek Brunson. Maybe looking back at that, Derek might have blown out his load, but Dricus has a habit of getting guys tired, right? And if we see a round 4 or a round 5 against a style bender, things might get interesting. And I really just don't see like that style happening against Whittaker, and I don't think that's even going to be a main event in itself. Probably will be a 3-round fight. So, yeah. Is Dricus du Plessis being overlooked? Is he underrated? Love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section. Guys, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to continue getting more MMA content. By yours truly, Mr. Mustache, MMA News out. Let's fucking go, fight fans.